Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DiPaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. All right, guys, I am your host, Butch Theory, here again this week. And before we jump into the report, we got a really cool opportunity for you. We have partnered with AFCO, and they are offering all of our listeners a free sun protection mask with any purchase of AFCO products. They make a ton of great products for all types of anglers. All you have to do to get the coupon code is text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, guys, we have a great Alabama saltwater fishing report lined up for you this week. But first, let's take a few minutes to check out a few of this week's great sponsors. And also, don't forget to check out our sponsors whenever you're in the marketplace for any of their products or services. They're the one that brings you the podcast for free each week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Sportsman's Marine. Sportsman's Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have AFCO, pelagic, and saltwater fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vexus lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. Also, if you're looking for a street legal electric golf cart, go check out their Atric golf carts. Sportsman's Marine on Highway 98, and they also have a downtown location next to Mr. Jean's Beans in Fairhope, Alabama. And also brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available at select restaurants and can also be purchased by the public at Bonsecore Fisheries, Inc. and Ahi Seafood in Fairhope, Alabama. Call for availability. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Butch Theory, and I'm rolling solo this week, so I won't waste any time. Let's jump right into the report. We're going to head down first and get the report from Captain Scott Kennedy. We're going to see what he's been up to over on the east side of Mobile Bay. All right, Captain Scott, welcome back to the show, man. What you been up to over there?
Oh, not a whole lot. Appreciate you having me back on. Just been kind of following my normal patterns.
Yeah. Man, we've had a little shakeup in the weather here. I mean, it kind of seems like it's evening out. It's been a little bit windy over here. You guys having to battle any adverse conditions recently?
Oh yeah, that's kind of the whole thing being in a kayak. Mother Nature definitely makes all our calls. So we have been dealing with some wind, especially this past week. Kind of definitely towards like the tail end of last week, and it seemed like all of last week, I guess. Really, just kind of dealing with a lot of this north wind kind of deal. So it has been, keeping us bouncing around and everything. But I have just about everywhere I've been, I've had success. This past week, it's definitely been more so redfish and flounder more than anything. We've had a few mornings where, right at sunrise, we're still finding those jacks running around. So, we're getting to get pulled around a little bit. But it seems like, as far as just at least what's in the, the shallows for us, we're not finding quite as many of the jacks, can't really count on that. But, like I said, the redfish and flounder have definitely been kind of making up for that. Just kind of, doing my normal thing as far as, what I'm looking for. I'm still for the most part looking for the, the marshy areas, kind of, around the mouths of tidal rivers, tidal creeks kind of stuff. Just looking for that flooded grass kind of along the bank. If I can find an area that's got flooded grass and structure, like a dock or, stumps or anything like that, that has definitely been a positive. But yeah, just kind of been picking those apart. The main bait I've been using, the fish bites, that dirty boxer has definitely been a strong contender for us this week. But there has been a couple mornings, especially, I had one morning when I fished, a little further east, kind of into Orange Beach, where I wouldn't say the water was, super clear, but it definitely was more visibility to it than what I've been dealing with over the past couple of weeks. So it's kind of allowed for a little bit of sight casting, and, some spookier fish. So been having to use, I've mentioned them before, those bug jigs have been good for me. If I find myself in some cleaner water, those have been good for me. And I've caught, redfish and flounder on them this week. So,
Really?
So they're good for, they are good. That's kind of my main thing when I'm sight casting. But they are good. If you get that 1/4 ounce, that curl tail jig, that works real good. Just kind of doing some educated blind cast, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just been good. We've been been finding a little bit of everything everywhere we've gone. So it's definitely been a positive for us.
Awesome, man. That sounds like a pretty good report. On the dirty boxers, what's your favorite color for flounders and or reds?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's called the knockout color. It's kind of close to what we would call kind of that new penny, kind of that light brown with some black speckles. That's been my go-to. Those aren't necessarily the easiest find everywhere. It seems like I'm not the only one that knows those have been pretty successful because they are.
I think the secret is out on those.
Oh gosh, yeah. But so if I hadn't been able to find that knockout color, kind of that salt and pepper, kind of that off-white color has been real good to me too.
Awesome. What about tides, man? You noticed I haven't, admittedly, unfortunately, haven't been fishing and I have not been paying attention to the tide times or anything, but are you noticing any tide is better than the other?
As far as the flounder, kind of like I mentioned, I've been saying it all summer really, right at peak high tide, maybe, that first hour or two kind of following that falling tide. That seems to be when I've had the best luck for the flounder. For the redfish too, it seems like kind of that same thing, maybe a little more extended. Once that tide really starts cranking out, that seems to kind of be the best time as far as where we've been catching fish. Not to say that if you only got like right now we've got that kind of what I like to consider, those magic tides where right at first light, maybe just a little bit after first light, we've got that falling tide, and that seems to be perfect. But if you've only got the afternoons to fish, we've still been finding some fish. You are dealing with that low tide kind of right in the afternoon. So it is, I wouldn't say it's my favorite time to fish, but we've been catching some fish in the afternoons. But if I was trying to, kind of optimize my time and, had the, the choice to choose when I was going to get out and everything, if you can kind of time it where you're there for, the beginning of that falling tide and the hours kind of few hours following that has definitely been the peak for me.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I got to get out and do some flounder fishing a couple times last week and the week before with Dad, and we were definitely late one morning to that falling tide. We got there a little later than we should have, and the bite was on fire as soon as we got there, and as soon as that kind of tapered off, we were definitely late, so we missed that. So I definitely agree with that. And next time we were not late and we won, so that's good. We learned from our mistakes, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. At least for over us on the Eastern Shore here, it's you can definitely notice a big difference in that falling tide compared to low tide and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, what else you been catching? You found anything interesting?
Yeah, so this past week seems like every year I seem to kind of start looking a little bit earlier and earlier. But we, like you mentioned, we had that little cool front roll through this week, and I just kind of had the itch, and one day when I was launching, I happened to notice there was a bunch of fiddler crabs along the bank. So I piled up on some fiddler crabs, and I went on a little bit of a sheephead hunt. I didn't stick with it long. I only had a couple hours to kind of get out. This was, a little fun trip for me. So I got out, and I actually managed to, in about an hour and a half, I managed to pick up a couple. So,
Nice.
it's starting to, the sheephead are starting to show up. I definitely wouldn't say they were, what they will be in a month or two, but they're out there. So that's definitely for me, it's a sure sign of the season's changing. It was definitely a kind of a little welcome thing to see, like this morning, for instance, we caught, on the trip, we caught redfish, flounder, some small specks, and the sheephead in the mix kind of kind of to boot. So that was definitely a nice variety. And like I was telling my customer this morning, I love those trips where we can get out and, kind of count on, multiple species instead of being locked into just one thing the whole trip or something like that. So it was definitely a nice change of pace and a welcome thing to see.
Welcome sign of fall.
Yeah, definitely. I'm I don't like the cold weather, but after this summer, I'm okay with the cooler temperatures.
Yeah, I am definitely ready for a break as well, man. That little cool down we had a few weeks ago was just a tease. Knew it was going to get hot again, but it kept you wanting for more for sure.
Oh, definitely. It looks like we got another one coming next week, so I'm excited. I'm ready for those water temperatures to start dropping down a little bit.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, talking about kind of hopping those jigs on the bottom, like with the dirty boxer, it kind of seems like it's a personal preference. And I think where you're fishing, well, for me, it does anyways, goes into factor whenever you're selecting like the jig size, the jig head size. Are you a heavy jig head or are you a light jig head?
I'm kind of like you, of course, water depth plays a big factor in it. Kind of the places I've been finding myself recently catching the flounder and everything, I've been catching a lot of them and, probably 2 to 3 feet of water, and definitely not fishing anywhere that's got, there is some current, but I wouldn't say it's, strong current by any means.
Right.
So I've been leaning towards the 1/8 ounce jig head here lately. I think that, especially with that dirty boxer, it really allows that tail to, plenty of time to make its presence known.
Flip around.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's one thing I've kind of started to realize, especially fishing for them, off the beach in the years past, some of these years where the water's real clear out there, you can actually kind of like watch the flounders, react to your bait and everything. And I've noticed these flounder are a lot more aggressive than I have given them credit for in the past, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So to be able to get it real erratic like that and, have, like I said, have that tail really kick has been, in my mind, at least, that's kind of what I've been trying to lean for. And then, of course, if I'm, in some deeper water, like there have been, just a small handful of times where I've been flounder fishing, 5-6 feet here in the last, week or two. And, of course, then I do bounce it or, hop up to a, 1/4 ounce.
Yeah.
But, like I said, if I'm not fishing that deep stuff and of course, not trying to fight current or anything, I'm trying to go that 1/8 ounce just so I can, still get a decent cast, but allow that bait to really flutter.
Yeah. Yeah. I like a heavy jig head, man, especially if I'm not somewhere where I, fishing like some rocks or a rubble pile. I feel like I get hung much worse with a heavier jig head. But if I'm not worried about snags, I'd rather get that casting distance and really be able to hop drag that thing on the bottom. That's just kind of my reasoning or my thinking there, whether that's accurate or not.
Oh no, I could definitely see it. That just kind of, I guess in my mind, kind of plays back to, with these kayaks, we're able to get right on top of where we're wanting to fish. So
true.
I guess, I always like to think about casting distance, but I guess I don't need, I try not to get every single yard as I could, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Like I mentioned in the past, we just put ourselves right on top of it. But like I could definitely see what you're talking about coming from a boat where you need every bit of distance you can.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when you're in a boat with Captain Bobby or Captain Richard, and those suckers can throw it 1.5 miles, so you got to keep up.
Oh yeah.
Well, man, that's a great report, Scott. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can give me a call or text at 251-408-2604, or you can check me out on the Fishing Chaos app under Whistling Waters, and you can see all my available dates, rates, prices, everything like that.
Get in on some of that fall fishing action. It's about that time, Cap.
Oh yeah, it's only going to keep getting better from here, especially as the things cool off. It's getting to be right. It's that time of year.
Yep, no doubt, man. Well, thanks for the report, man. We always look forward to hearing from you, and we can't wait to hear it next time, man. Be safe out there.
All right. I appreciate you having me on, and I'll catch y'all next time.
All right, guys. It's always good to hear from Captain Scott Kennedy over at Whistling Waters. You guys take a quick minute and check out a few of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Richard Doney Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Richardoni. He provides services for all ages and accepts most dental insurances. Do not let an achy tooth ruin a day on the water. Call today to book an appointment at 251-342-6672. And also brought to you by L&M Marine. L&M Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoon boats, to bigger bay boats and offshore hybrids. L&M Marine LLC prides itself on its customer service and knows how important it is to have someone you can trust and to be taken care of. They are locally owned and regularly support the community. L&M Marine provides superior customer service and has an entire team that consists of professional sales members, finance experts, service technicians, and a knowledgeable parts and accessory staff to support you. Go visit their friendly, reliable, and experienced staff, now located only 6 miles north of I-10 at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or give them a call at 251-937-1380. All right, guys, before we dive into our next fishing report, we're going to go over and talk with my buddy Joe Bite at the Northwest Florida Fishing Report. We're going to be talking about outriggers today. There's so many new options out there. And, out of Florida and Alabama where we're doing these reports, it's not out of the realm of possibility for you to get out there and do some trolling in some blue water conditions for some wahoo and some pelagics. And today we're going to be talking to Gemlux about everything you need to think about if you're thinking about putting outriggers on your boat.
Butch, you and I spent quite a bit of time working on outriggers over the years, but we were never really involved in the decision-making process for the length, the materials, where they were going to get mounted, any technology that was out there for outriggers. And that's the point of today's show, is really to kind of dive off into that stuff that we weren't privy to. We did a good bit of rigging them and a good bit of maintaining them, but they were just already there on every boat I ever fished with them.
Yeah, me too, man. And there's so many more options now. I mean, whenever we were coming up on the back deck, it was just kind of a big boat thing. I feel like, outriggers, and now you can have an outrigger on pretty much any center console. It seems like they have a lot of new materials and all kind of innovations in that realm. So yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more today.
Yeah, talking with captains like Adam Peoples over here out of Destin, and they're targeting pelagics in very, very well within reach of really the smallest center consoles that should consider going offshore. There's big pelagic fish that are within your reach, and outriggers really are going to open up your opportunities to catch fish. To do that this week, we've got Hunter Osborne with Gemlux. He handles the retail sales over there. Hunter, tell us a little bit about your role over at Gemlux and a little bit about the company.
Hey guys, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me here. My role in the company is retail sales. So, when these guys are calling us, they can ask for me. I'd be happy to steer them in the right direction, talk about what fits their boat best, which outriggers they need to go with. And, I'm happy to be here.
Well, Hunter, the idea behind this show and a lot of shows like it is really to be and serve as a buying guide for our listeners. It's an opportunity for them to learn everything they need to think about when they're considering either new outriggers for their boat or, replacing their existing outriggers.
Or an upgrade.
Yeah,
just kind of treat this as, somebody's walking into your showroom floor and, hey, what do you have? And what do you need kind of deal? Cause like Joe and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, we kind of grew up on the back deck of bigger boats, 57 to 65. And we've dang sure restrung our share and waxed our share and washed our share of outriggers, even broken a few. Yeah. But we've never been on the purchasing side, never had a boat big enough, personally, to have to go through this. So I'm interested in looking forward to learning a lot from you today.
Yes. Hunter, let's start out here. I mean, first off, just tell us what purpose the outrigger really serves.
Mainly, it gives you the flexibility by getting your bait outside the white water. You kind of get to cover more ground, whereas without the outrigger, you're not getting, say 18, 22 foot off the side of the boat, and you're not running, 6 lines. It really enhances your odds of catching a fish by just giving you that ground coverage. And, our goal here at Gemlux is we make that center console boat compete with that sport fish. In those big tournaments, we give them the competitive edge to go out there and not be that lone center console.
It's funny to hear you say that, because back in the day, you just really wouldn't have thought about outriggers much on the center console. Butch's got a new boat this year. We've been talking a lot about, just how much more reliable engines are, and, really a boat that in the past you would have considered really a nearshore boat is plenty capable on a nice day of getting offshore and getting into the type of water where you will do some trolling and being able to spread those baits out and cover more water. We talk about that a lot on our podcast of, really good anglers, no matter what type of fishing they're doing, they cover more ground with their bait than the amateur anglers do. And that really leads to a lot more success, a lot more catching fish. It's just volume. You get more baits in the water and cover more water with them.
More time in the strike zone.
That's right. You're going to have more success, and outriggers really help do that. And yeah, it's not uncommon now to see those outriggers on those smaller center console boats. So, for guys considering that, or guys, even going on up from there, what do you think is the most important factor to consider when you're putting outriggers on your vessel?
Yeah, Joseph, I would say, I'd like to tell my customers there's not one single most important thing to look for. I bring them in. I like to get to know them, know what they're fishing for. That's the main thing to me is, what do you want to do with these outriggers? Are you going down to the Keys once a year to catch mahi and slow troll live bait? Are you running, 100 plus miles trying to target billfish every other weekend? Charter captain, onward. It really comes down to what fits you the best. For those guys going down there to catch mahi in the Keys, I would say, go with our hybrid. For the guys going offshore, I would say go with our carbon fiber. And that's something that we'll get into here shortly. I like to say, judge it by the boat. 18-foot outriggers usually are going to be going on, 20 to 27-foot boats. 27 and up, we're going to be saying go 22. And we're even working on some other bigger sizes, for the bigger boats coming up soon. But that's really kind of how I like to determine what's best for a captain.
So you mentioned a little bit there, the type of materials that there are, the options that are out there. The only ones I have experience with are aluminum, I believe. Mm-hmm. So kind of tell us a little bit about the options and what are some thoughts whenever you're looking to put one or the other on your boat?
Yeah, so obviously, most of us are used to growing up, we're used to the aluminum. That's the most common that you'll see out there on, a lot of the older boats, and even some of the newer ones like to go that route. This carbon fiber, though, it has really changed the game. I mean, it's so dang light, but yet it's as strong as this aluminum. It's not adding any kind of stress to your T-top. It's not, it's not an inconvenience when you want to collapse that thing and throw it in a fish box and a cover, with a cover on them. It's real simple, real user-friendly. And then we also sell a hybrid. We actually stay away from any kind of aluminum poles at all. We're just strictly hybrid and carbon fiber. This hybrid, it's a little bit more economical. That's what I like to tell people. It's not as stiff as our carbon fiber poles, but it's just about as strong as that carbon fiber.
Talking about the hybrid model, what other material is there besides the carbon fiber, and then going into the carbon fiber a little bit, how much lighter are you talking about?
So the hybrid, they're a mixture of fiberglass and carbon fiber. It's just really to do it so it's more economical, so that guy out there that has that 24-foot boat that's just trolling live bait, he doesn't have to go spend $10,000 on a whole setup. He can go with our little bit cheaper base and pole and still get that same strength out of it and mobility. As far as weight differences, I mean, you can barely even tell a difference in it. They're both about the same weight. It is a little bit heavier, but I mean, when I say a little bit heavier, you're talking a pair of our carbon fiber, about 8 pounds. This is about 10. I mean, that's what I'm talking about as far as weight differences. So it really isn't a big, huge difference between the two.
What about maintenance? As I mentioned, my only experience is aluminum. When I remember having days off, man, we were waxing outriggers and cleaning outriggers, and it was a pain in the butt. So as far as these hybrids and the carbon fiber, what's the maintenance look like on those, Hunter?
Yeah, so I mean, we do all we can to try to make it easier on our customers because, man, we've seen it all. We've had people call with all kinds of different damage, and they'll call it UV damage, but really they just scraped it under a bridge, and we're going, what are you doing with this thing, man? And what we do to try to alleviate those issues is we actually add a clear coat, UV resistance, as well as a coat on top of it. What we suggest is using some kind of clear coat, some kind of cleaner, once, twice a year. Always make sure you wash these things down with fresh water. That's the main thing. Wash them down, put some soap on it, just some regular boat soap, and really just make sure that you take care of it as if it's, your fishing rods that you're using every day. So that's kind of what I would say. We actually sell a product that's used to put on that clear coat and clean it.
Of course, maintenance is an important consideration with anything you buy. Outriggers are no different. I want to take you back to thinking about materials and thinking about the length of those outriggers. And, we start talking about some of these smaller boats that may want to add a set of outriggers, never had one before. How does the speed that the boat run play into this? My experience, again, with outriggers is on bigger sport fish style boats that, we were most of the time running around somewhere plus or minus 20 knots and not going super fast like these smaller outboard driven boats are capable of. Mm-hmm. Does the speed of the boat play into either material choice, weight, length, just decisions overall?
Hardware, where you mount it? Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, really the speed doesn't really play a factor. I know, back, before, say, probably 10, 15 years ago, it may have, just because of the material. But now we've gotten these carbon fiber poles figured out where it doesn't matter, if you're running out of Holliver Inlet doing 60, those things are stiff as they can be. They're not going to get beat all around. Now, what I will say, as far as, mountain locations, you want to make sure that, you put a backing plate on these bases. And that's something that we offer, because at the end of the day, it's not as much the poles as it is the bases. I mean, that's what steers this thing. That's the gasoline in the engine. That's what matters most to everything, is what bases are you using. We pull wakeboarders with our outriggers in one of our videos on our YouTube page. And that's not so much because of those poles. Don't get me wrong, those poles are strong, but that base right there also is one of the most important factors to consider when purchasing an outrigger setup.
Yeah, I mean, typically, like, when you have a problem with the T-top on a boat or something like that, it's usually not the aluminum itself, it's the base, it's cracking around where it's attached to the deck or something along those lines. And so that makes a lot of sense. Focusing on those bases is important, making sure that you're getting something that is going to be able to withstand the beating and everything you're going to put that through for years and years and years, not just one season. You were talking about the different lengths of outriggers. That would be my first question, is like, how do I determine what length I want to put on my boat? I mean, let's take Butch's boat, for example. Butch's it's 26 feet, right, Butch? So if Butch wanted to kind of stretch his legs a little bit, get out there and, try to catch some wahoo and start doing some more trolling out there, what would he want to think about in terms of outrigger length?
Yeah. So, if he had called in and, has a 26-foot boat, first thing, like I said, I'm going to ask him, what's your goal here? What are you trying to target? We've seen 26-foot boats put 22-foot outriggers on them. That's okay, as long as you got that blue water base. Now, a good rule of thumb is, as I mentioned before, 20 to 27 foot, we're suggesting, 16 to 18 foot outriggers. That's just a good rule of thumb to start. But like you said, I mean, he may want to stretch his legs. He may want to get out there, and he may not want to be limited. That's another follow-up that I ask him after, what's your goal? What's your goal in 2 years? Let's say that you're just getting started and you're outfitting your boat and you get the 18 foot with, let's say, a deluxe base, which is our mid-grade base. That's cool. That's awesome. You get those kids out there on the water, and you get the family out there, and man, we love this. We want to move out a little bit more. We want to target a different species, but then you're a little bit limited. So that's why, it really comes down to, what's your future goal with this setup? Where do you want to be in 2 or 3 years? But I mean, a basic rule of thumb, like I said, if you're going 20 to 27 foot, I'm going to say 18 foot, 28 and up, we're going to say 22 foot. And we even actually offer a 27 foot rigger for, 40 foot and up. But like I said, man, I've seen a 24 foot boat put 22 foot riggers on their boat because they just want to be able to run 6 lines. They want a triple rig. They want to be able to get as far out as they possibly can. And that's totally fine. If it works, it works. I don't love the idea of it, just because to me it looks a little goofy. But I mean, especially with our collapsibles, that is another good point, is, that collapsible is 22 foot, but you can collapse it down to 18. You can take one of those sections down and you're ready to go fishing at 18 foot, and gets a little rougher, move it in. So that's kind of the flexibility with our collapsible poles. And that's what I would say a good rule of thumb would be.
So, we kind of understand now the length that we need, and kind of really basing that off the type of fish we want to target, type of fishing we want to do. And we've had similar conversations about other products. Really you need to think about not necessarily what you need right now, but what are you going to need? Because when you're investing in something like this, is, you want to be able to maybe grow into it a little bit, as opposed to only getting the bare minimum for what you need right now. Most likely, if you're getting into this, you probably are going to want to start doing more and more and more of it, I would think.
Exactly.
And you're talking about the importance of the mounting hardware. I know that's key as well to maintaining the strength of these outriggers over time. But what about locations? So, Butch got a center console. A lot of guys may run a pilot house type boat, cuddy cabins. You got smaller sport fish going on up from there. What do you think about mounting locations and what's best and what's possible?
Yeah. So, generally you'll see the center consoles have them about middle way in the T-top. That's probably the most common that I would say. some T-tops are tooled to accept riggers. You know, they'll already have a hole pre-drilled with something through it, something plugging it, or even some of them may have a backing plate already built up there. So that's one thing to really think about. It really, I've seen guys move them back from midship. I've seen guys, you know, have them in the back corners. That's another preference type deal. What I will say is one of the reasons why you see it mostly in the midship is because you're right there at the captain's chair. That captain is sitting out there. You know, he wants to be able to reach out, put those things out from underneath the T-top. That's one benefit with our system, actually, is everything's done from underneath the T-top by one handle. So that captain can be, you know, trying to get that rigger in, reach over, you know, rotate it in towards the boat. So I think, you know, that probably plays a big role in where you want those bases to be mounted at.
Yeah, I could see that being vital. I mean, when in my dealings with outriggers, I was always a deckhand. The captain was like, all right, y'all put the riggers out, you know, so he didn't really care where they were mounted. He wasn't the one doing it. But on a smaller boat, you really need to be thinking about who's going to be putting these out. If I've got my kids on the boat, and do I have people on the boat with limited experience that maybe they don't even know how to do that, or you don't want them to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, that's very important to think
Well,
about.
it just keeps one more hand on deck, really.
That's right.
Gets the captain involved. We got to keep him involved.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about where you mount these outriggers and just thinking about outriggers in general, all the different materials, different lengths. What are some of the problems that happen with outriggers, you know, and that maybe we can circumvent those problems by making
right.
sure
Like if you can see around corners, what would be
Right.
something you would tell people? What's the probably, I guess, what's the main failing point? I guess what Joe's trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, man, really, most of our poles are coming back because they're going under bridges and they ain't putting them things down. I mean, I'm being honest. But no, I mean, besides that, you know, one thing that no matter what brand you go with, and I've seen this growing up fishing, you're going to have UV damage. You know, you're going to have people who keep those things in the bases at all times, sitting in the boat slip. And just like your boat, just like your rods, just like anything, that sun is brutal, man, especially down here in Florida. And so, I mean, that's probably one of the most common issues that I see. Every once in a while, you know, we'll have a base come back and we'll have to rebuild it or you know, add some grease into the internals of it. And that's something actually that we have recently this year tried to fight against is, you know, we just recently put grease ports on our bases. So with those grease ports, you know, it can be maintenance in the field where you couldn't do that before. So, I mean, I would say really main thing would be UV damage, which can be fought by, you know, pulling those things out, putting them in a case. If you're not using that, you know, just put it away. And that is one good thing about our collapsibles is they can be stored very easily. They collapse down to about 12 foot, depending on, you know, which size you go with. And you see that now in the whole outrigger market is with these collapsibles is we get them, you know, as small as they can, as collapsed as they can, so that they can be stored, so that, you know, you can use preventative maintenance.
No doubt. I mean, prevention is the key, and getting them out of the sun, man.
Yeah. Anytime you can keep the sun and the salt off of them. Absolutely. I mean, like you say, just sitting in a slip or sitting in a boathouse where we live in Florida and Alabama, it'll roast anything. That makes sense. Keep them away.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, you were talking about the range in prices, you know, maybe going from the hybrid to the, you know, full carbon fiber. With that range in prices, if you step up into the higher price range models, what are you getting, you know, to justify that price increase?
Yeah, so I mean, what you're getting, and really, you know, I'll start with the bases. You know, with the bases, you're getting a full stainless steel base, internals, everything. It's a beast, man. To be honest with you, it is just a beast compared to our mid-range space, which is, it's strong, but you know, it's not full stainless like this blue water base. It kind of gives you the ability to do whatever you want. And like I was saying earlier, you're not limited. You're stepping up that price range, and that's you telling me I'm not going to be calling you in 2 years to come back and upgrade my stuff, because I already got the baddest stuff around town. You know, I don't need to go any further than where I already am. A couple other things, you know, is we offer an internal outrigger pole, which we haven't really touched on very much, but that is really the top of the line pole, in my opinion. It is, it's all internally rigged, you know, so it really makes life easier whenever you have the kids out there or whenever you're running teasers or dredges or anything like that, because everything's pretty clean. And that's what I would say would be the step above that 22 collapsible, would be that 22 internal. That step above that 18 collapsible would be that 18 internal. So that's kind of what you're justifying spending that money on.
Very interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard of that. Yeah, I got to hear more about that.
Tell us some more about those internals. I mean, I may have seen a guy on this show at one point, like, get tangled up in an outrigger at some point, casting.
Exactly.
You know, maybe
That
it was
that was the spinning reel's fault. That was that stupid Stella. That was not my fault. That was a Van Staal, actually.
Hey,
Stupid bale with spinning reel. Who makes that crap?
But yeah, so not too long ago released our internal riggers. And man, I mean, it really has been a game changer. It is just such a sleek, clean look. We offer them in custom colors. We offer them white, black, fully carbon fiber. And they're awesome. They're all fixed. So that is the only thing that I ask people when they call is, will you be trailering your boat around? That is a important factor as far as the internal versus collapsibles go. Because you might have that guy that has more money than sense and just bought himself his brand new yellowfin with 22-foot internal poles on the back, and he's taking out, you know, stuff on the highway because he ain't got them things raised or pointed forward. Those internals, they basically, to me, are just more user friendly. Like I was touching on earlier, let's say you go with the 17 internal that we offer, and you're going down to the Keys with your family. Same guy that was live bait fishing down there with those hybrids, another guy pulls up. And, you know, he's got these internals. He's got the kids on the boat and the wife on the boat, but his boys couldn't make it down. Well, that's all right, because you got 3 lines on the 22s, 2 lines on the internals that you're dealing with on the 18s. That's all they got to worry about. They ain't worried about, you know, all these lines tangling up. They ain't worried about getting a fishing rod in that line here, because everything is sleek and it's hidden, and you just got the 2 lines that you're fishing with coming off of that pole. So it's awesome, man. I mean, it really is innovative, and I think it's the future of center console outrigger fishing, at least bigger center consoles, I would say. So yeah,
definitely gonna have to check those internals out for sure. Well, what do you guys have coming up other than you said you just released the internals? Anything new coming out with Gemlux?
Yeah, so we have a lot of new projects coming out. I can't say much about them, but we actually have some sport fish outriggers coming out. You know, we're gonna offer them actually internal or externally rigged. So that's going to be something that's kind of a game changer. I mean, it's different, but it's been proven. You know, we've caught fish on it. We have 1 boat with them on it now, and there's actually some more information on our website. And we really plan on releasing these things at IBEX coming up here in September, and really letting the cat out of the bag with those. We have a few other projects. You can always keep up with our projects on our Instagram, Gemlux Fishing, or on our website. And we're constantly, our goal here at Gemlux, like I started with, is we want to make sure that center console fisherman has a competitive edge against that guy in the sporty, you know, and we want to make sure that fishing is made as simple and easy as possible, because at the end of the day, we want to get as many people out here fishing as possible. You know, we have our whole company fishes. I always say it's the biggest, smallest company that you'll ever see, just because, man, we'll go out and fish with each other and see what can we do to make these things better? What can we do to make the fisherman's life a little bit easier and catch more fish while doing it?
Well, Hunter, it's
Very
been really cool talking to you and getting to kind of dive in on these different aspects. But I like, too, what you said, you know, pick up the phone, give you guys a call, talk about what you're trying to accomplish, where you're trying to fish, the kind of boats you run. Are you trailering? Do you have it on a lift? Are you leaving this thing? You want to leave it out there all the time? Or are you going to be able to store it? All this stuff goes into consideration. And of course, budget too, you know, what you can afford. All that stuff goes into consideration. If folks want to get in touch with you guys, just go to the website. How can they reach you?
Yeah, I mean, they can give us a call anytime. We're here 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 3 on Friday. We offer live chat on the website, message on Facebook, Instagram, you know, all around. But what I ask is, for whoever's listening out there that's considering going out and getting, purchasing an outrigger system or upgrading his outriggers, give me a call, ask for Hunter. And, we may not be the right fit for everyone, but I'd at least like to steer someone in the right direction because, like I said, our goal is to get more people on the water, more people enjoying this sport that, you, me, and Butch might, we grew up fishing and we enjoy, and we don't want it to go anywhere. So yeah, just give us a call and ask for me anytime, and I'd be happy to learn about, what someone's trying to achieve.
Well, Hunter, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yep. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with our listeners.
Sure. Thank you all.
Man, that's a lot of good information Hunter gave us. There's a lot to it. I mean, as it, pretty much everything we do, there's a lot of options. So I really enjoyed these special segments, kind of diving in, and like you talk about with my boat, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So I feel like Hunter gave our listeners a really good outline of what you need to be thinking about if you're thinking about putting outriggers on your boat. What about you? What'd you pick up?
Yeah, I thought the show was going to go different than it did. I really thought it was going to be more like, for this length boat, you get this outrigger and you do this and you do that. And it was more of a defined process. It was interesting to hear Hunter say that it's really about the type of fishing you're going to do, the fish you're targeting, it's about how you fish more than say your boat or your speed or any of those things. And that's interesting to me that you want to approach it from that angle. But I also thought it was just really cool. It sounds like they're very innovative, not only in the materials they're using, but also that internal outrigger. That's a really cool idea. Cool. I'm definitely going to check that out over on their website. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, like a lot of things that we talk about on here and we do these deep dives, is it really depends on what you're trying to do. And you need to contact a professional and reach out to them, tell them what you're trying to accomplish to get you into the right choice ultimately.
And you do have options. He was walking us through, the collapsibles, and you can go from a 22, if you're out there trolling, you can collapse them into an 18, or I believe that's what he said, to be more functional, to be more not as long and out there. So that makes sense.
And over here, on the Emerald Coast and over there where you are, Butch, outside of Mobile Bay, there are pelagics closer than a lot of people think. I mean, we're catching wahoo a lot of times over there where you are, within 15 miles of Mobile Bay. Over here off the Emerald Coast, they're catching pelagics all the way up into basically the second sandbar, So it's very realistic if you want to get into doing more of that type of fishing, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you and I have talked about it over and over and over again. I think if I had my choice, if it was my last day on earth, of the kind of fishing I'd do, it'd be on a rip, trolling a rip, So
no doubt. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It is very much in reach of center consoles all the way down into 22-foot boats with single engines. I mean, it's doable, and it sounds like they've got an option for really whatever kind of boat you've got.
Yep, I agree, man. And when the blue water's in, you're right. You can get out there and get them. Ain't nothing to it, especially this time of year. The white marlin come in, the water's been kind of mucky, but it's definitely in reach.
Yeah, very cool segment.
Well, that was another awesome segment. It was brought to you by CCA Alabama, a great way to support conservation projects like the Claude Petite Flounder and Speckled Trout Hatchery in the University of South Alabama Cobia Tagging Project is through the purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. You guys head over to Alabama Department of Revenue's distinctive license plate page at revenue.gov to get yours. And also brought to you by AFTCO, American Fishing Tackle Company. AFTCO's fishing clothing is designed to handle the harshest elements. From cold tournament mornings to the humid summers of Florida, their products are built to handle the extreme. They're proud to hear customer stories about the 20-plus year-long life cycle of their AFTCO products. Their passion for the outdoors goes beyond their products. They're committed to protecting their fishing resources and angler rights. Through their 10% pledge to protect and conserve, your purchase of any AFTCO product directly supports conservation initiatives. Visit aftco.com. That's AFTCO.com to learn more. All right, guys, let's head on down and get our inshore report for the day. Let's see what Captain Patric Garmeson's up to with Ugly Fishing. Welcome back to the show, Cap. How are we doing today?
Man, doing well. Actually, still on the water, about to put her in the wind and head back to Weeks Bay. Had a Fort Morgan pickup today.
All right, that's good. A little windy out there today, man. Did you guys get beat up?
Man, I've been trying to spend a good bit of time in the Sound. So some of the boat ride across the bay or from Fort Morgan over to into the sound is a little bit bumpy, but blue wave does well. Take it easy and, just don't get into a hurry.
Right. Beat your brains out.
Yeah. Got to try to keep that spine intact as long as I can.
No doubt. I definitely agree with you on that. Well, what you been up to, man? What you been chasing? Anything sticking out to you? What you want to talk about today?
Man, so over the last couple of weeks, the bite in the bay, for me anyway, has just been pretty daggum slow to non-existent. And that's redfish, sheephead, trout, whatever. Like just one redfish here, maybe a puppy drum or something, but just really tough to get anything materializing. I was still catching a lot of jacks. We were able to run around and catch those guys. A lot of them were showing themselves like about halfway up the bay and all the way up to the causeway, catching them on top waters and the poppers and stuff. So we were still having a lot of fun with that. But I was starting to get into some of my customers that are looking to take a few fish home, and like, man, I'm kind of beating my head against the wall in the bay. So I started sliding off into the sound, and I had to sneak in there a couple times before Bobby spotted me. But he finally saw me a couple times. But yeah, man, the fishing in the sound for me has been a lot more like predictable. Like, okay, you see some birds working on this point, maybe a slick coming off of it, you set up, do everything that we talk about in the podcast as far as throwing popping corks or top water or whatever, and catch a few trout or white trout or maybe redfish or something like that. Man, it's been fun just jumping around, fishing some of the islands, oyster farms, a lot of creek mouths and stuff. Really just kind of all over the place. There's a bunch of life. I haven't been going in there and just annihilating them on numbers, unless we find like a flock of birds where we can pull down and really just send some artificial bait in there and just keep the bite going. We'll catch a lot of smaller specks, maybe a couple of legals and a lot of white trout. And then you get in and around the creeks and stuff and creek mouths and the redfish are a little bit more common in those areas, and flounder as well. Like today, switched over to a little slick and just started beating up these little troughs, these little sloughs coming into the main creeks and catching flounder and redfish. And man, just good fishing, and it has kind of a taste of fall feeling, because a lot more of our success on the trout, redfish, and flounder has actually all been on artificial bait.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and the bonus to that for me has been fishing near a lot of this like rocks and breakwaters and reefs and stuff like that that's got some hard structure, and slowing down and catching some sheephead on the shrimp. So just a real nice variety of fish to be had. But on a positive note for the bay, I have been in touch with a couple of my guide buddies that are saying that they're starting to pick up a few more redfish here or there, and things are starting to turn the corner. But yeah, it was tough on a lot of us there for a little while. So if you're fishing Mobile Bay over the last couple of weeks and struggling, I feel your pain, because I was out there with you.
Yeah, don't get your feelings hurt too bad.
Yeah, I was getting my feelings hurt bad enough for everybody.
I bet, man. It's sometimes whenever it gets tough, it's a grind.
Yeah, but like I said, the jack fishing was still good and fun, throwing those poppers and really stretching the line good with those guys. But really, we're in a drier period. The water is really starting to clean up a lot. Salt water is really pushing back into some of these areas that really got real fresh because of all the local rain and upstate rain and everything. And man, things are just starting to kind of come full circle for us. Water temp is kind of bouncing back up a little bit because of we've been having a lot of bluebird skies here recently. Despite a couple of little rain showers, the water temp is actually kind of bumping back up. So I'm seeing it water temp, say 83 in the morning, bumping up to 86, 87 degrees towards the end of my trip. So we're not in a fall water temperature range, But I was listening to the last week report, and Richard talking about, the fish are definitely reacting to the days getting a little shorter and things getting a little bit cooler. So, the night's a little bit cooler. So, and bait is everywhere.
Yeah.
Pogies, shrimp, glass minnows.
A lot of life. Yeah, we were talking to Captain Scott Kennedy a minute ago, and he was saying the same thing. He was finding a few sheep's head around, so that's good to see. That's fall-ish.
Yeah, definitely. And real cooperative. Like it's not a deal where you're just catching one sheephead or two and just feeding a bunch of bait to the trash fish or anything. I mean, if you find a couple of sheephead and slow down and fish that area, you might get you 8, 10, 12. I mean, it could turn into a nice dinner.
Heck yeah.
And a lot of decent sized ones, not any monsters. I think we had one the other day that was about 5 pounds, but a lot of those like 2 to 3 pounders. So put up a good fight. And if you're keeping some fish, make for a good dinner.
Heck yeah. Yeah, they definitely do, man. You're talking about fishing the little slicks. Any color in particular that's been working?
Actually, man, the 3 lures I've used for all things, under pop and cork and jigging, has been Cool Beans, Limon, and Swamp Thing. I feel like the Chartreuse, Limon, and Swamp Thing have been a little bit better. And so I would say if I were going to go just totally in the blind and want to throw a little slick, I'd probably lean towards one of those 2 right now. The redfish, the flounder, all of them seem to be eating it up, and the trout as well. We've caught some nice trout on the little slick under a pop and cork. Been rigging that with a 1/8 ounce jig head, and pretty much keeping my leader fairly short, kind of about a 20-inch leader or shorter. So something pretty close to the cork. And a lot of times if those fish are feeding on that little slick, that close to the cork, you may actually still be able to get some fish on top water. We've been getting a few on top water as well.
Very nice.
So it's nice. Like I said, you may not go out there and just absolutely slay any one particular species, but man, it always feels good to me, especially with taking customers who don't saltwater fish a lot. We can go and hit these 3 or 4 spots, catch a few trout, maybe pull over here and catch a redfish and a flounder or 2, and then round it out with a few sheephead. And like we attempted to do today was we tried to finish out our day on trying to find a jack, which down on the south end of the bay, just haven't seen them as much as I was.
Are you a like for redfish and flounder, are you a procure junkie like Richard and Dylan and them?
Oh man, I got a really good story there. I was just kind of pitching a little slick, a limon behind my guys. I had one of them fishing a spoon, and one of them fishing, I don't remember what else we were fishing. But anyway, I had them fishing up front, and I was just kind of hitting things that were behind them as they may have already hit it, and had one little trout bite or something like that. And then I was like, man, I need to put a little Procure on it. Put Procure on there, and literally the very next cast caught a flounder on it.
Man, that stuff works.
So I don't know if I knocked him in the head and he would have ate it without it. But
right.
I tell you what, I switched everybody over to little slicks. I sauced them all up, and everybody caught fish. So
yeah, that stuff works, man, for sure. I can't keep it handy.
Yeah, keep it handy. And I was using the mullet flavor or the mullet scent, and that's strictly because that's just what I had in the boat.
Yeah, I like them all, man. I like the Menhaden one, and man, if I'm artificial fishing, especially for flounder, I gotta have it. I don't feel as confident without it.
Well, it was definitely a confidence booster for me and my guys today, because it was instantaneous results when we put a little sauce on there. So definitely, if you're going to be throw a little slick, it doesn't pain you at all to put a little dab on there every 15, 20 casts. And I mean, it probably lasts longer than that, but I figure if once all the color has washed off, because it's got that little bit of that reddish brown color.
Yep.
If it's totally washed off, then I add a little bit more. You can still feel it on the bait. It's still slick feeling, but adding some more, I don't think you're hurting yourself by adding a little bit more.
No, I don't think so either. I'm sure that I apply it too liberally as well, but man, you can't. It's not going to hurt anything, I wouldn't think.
I don't think so. I mean, these, if a little bit goes a long way, I mean, a lot, I guess, does better. I don't know. I haven't gotten into testing that to figure out what the sweet spot is. But I can tell you, when that flounder ate that little slick today, it was gobbed on there pretty thick. So
Yeah.
I had piled it on there good to go in there for a good 20, 30 cast is kind of what I was thinking, and fish slammed it on the first one. So
I mean, that's awesome. It's good to still see those flounder biting really well. I know it's kind of flounder season right now, but man, it just hadn't slowed up this year.
Well, and and I think we're seeing two different things. I think we are definitely seeing a positive rebound on the population, but we've also seen a resurgence in the flounder fishermen. And a lot of guys that maybe weren't flounder fishermen are really dialing in on it now. So I think with the social media and a lot of conversation about flounder, I think is really brought it to the forefront, because not only are there more fish, but there's a lot more people actually,
Targeting
going
them.
out, catching them, and talking about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would say when I was a kid, there wasn't always a whole bunch of flounder talk. The flounder fishermen went and did their thing, and if they filled their cooler up, they generally didn't tell too many people about it, because they're going to go do it again the next day.
Yep. Yeah, the guys that were good at it kept it really quiet.
Yep, that's right. I'm still not targeting them. Like, I'm not going out like, all right, I'm going to flounder fish all day. But like I told my guys today, I said, in 12 years of me being a guide, this is the first year that I've ever felt confident in saying, hey, guys, y'all want to go try to catch a few flounder before we do something else.
Right.
And so far, it's either yielded a couple of fish or a couple of bites, but more times than not, a couple of fish than not. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, actually being able to target them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Scott a little bit about the tides. Have you been noticing anything? He was kind of saying it was kind of the same thing as a couple of weeks ago, kind of trying to hone in on that hour of, it peaking out and then the hour or two of the first of it falling. Have you noticed anything there?
Yeah, I would say that the trout bite seems to be a little bit better right as it starts to fall. But the redfish bite for me, we've caught them kind of throughout the tidal range. But if you were to ask me when I needed to go red fishing right now, I would say we're at low tide. Last probably hour or so, maybe two of low tide, go where you would think you would catch a redfish. And this is mostly targeting redfish in shallow water, like 4 feet and shallower. Go into an area where maybe you would expect to see them on a high tide and just slide way off where it would drop off, and the fish are kind of out there away from the structure, away from the creeks, or away from the shoreline, and it's been actually an easier target for me. So I think we're in a tide cycle right now where low tides in the evening, or even maybe even at night. So yeah, I mean, an afternoon or evening trip to go catch some redfish is probably going to be probably going to work in your favor right now. And the flounder too. The flounder, I feel like, have been pretty productive down towards the bottom of the tide as well.
Good to know. Good to hear, man. That's a great report. Some great tips in there. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Go to the website, uglyfishing.com. Not only can you see my calendar on there, so have a couple of links if you guys need to go save some money on either salt's gone, or if you got some topwater lures or something that you need to get on lurenet.com. There's a link on there as well, and a slick lure link. So y'all can go on my website. They're on my homepage. And then if you're needing to book a trip, go just click the book now button. You'll see my calendar, and it is jamming up. I think I only have a couple days left in November. I did have a recent cancellation. I think I've got one Thursday of next week that's still open, but it's slim pickings. So if you're wanting to try to get on my books, I'd advise you to check out my calendar and yours and try to match up a open date and get it on there.
Heck yeah, it's getting into that fall fishing.
Yep. And the other thing is, if you got any questions, you can give me a call or shoot me a text at 251-747-1554.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you taking care of our listeners, and we always appreciate the report, man. We look forward to hearing from you next time, buddy. Be safe out there.
Thanks a lot, Butch.
It's always good to hear from Captain Patric Garmeson with Ugly Fishing. You guys take a quick break and check out a few more of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by United Bank. United Bank knows what an important role agriculture plays in our local economy. At United Bank, they are here to support local farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness, including real loans for farmland, equipment loans, working lines of credit, and more. Truth is, they deeply value the contributions agriculture makes to our communities, and they help our local farmers build successful businesses. They want to see you succeed. Learn more at unitedbank.com or stop by any United Bank branch. United Bank, all loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC. And also brought to you by Photonis Defense. Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. The ultralight, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest image, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PD Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness. All right, we got to do what did you learn before we get out of here today. A lot of good information. Captain Scott sounds like he's on the fish, and Captain Patric is also kind of gave a very, very similar report. It sounds like there's a lot of options right now. Variety is always good. So sounds like you need to kind of keep your options open right now. It sounds like Captain Patric and Scott were kind of bouncing around a decent amount, but not setting the world on fire at each particular location, but having good success with different species at each place they were targeting. So I think I'd be ready for a number of different species right now. Make sure you have a popping cork with a small artificial shrimp under it. And also that little slick has been working really well under the popping cork, like Captain Patric was talking about, especially in the sound. Whenever you get on those bird flocks that are giving away those schools of trout, makes it nice whenever you have a popping cork with a small imitation shrimp, just to be able to kind of frantically go after those fish. And as soon as you can get that sucker in the boat and shake him off, you're casting back into that school of fish and not having to rebait and mess with hooking live bait and all that. Sounds like the artificial game is still going strong. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. You'll take a quick minute and check out a few of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Foster Contracting. Fortified Roofing Pros. The recent thunderstorms that have been producing wind and hail in the area may have damaged your home's roof. The certified roofing pros at Foster Contracting offer free roof inspections, and if your roof has received damage, most homeowners will have little or no cost out of pocket when going through your insurance. If you're looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. They're a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible, and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. And also brought to you by Sam's Stop and Shop. Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Sam's also has tackle experts and podcast contributors Chris Becce and Dusty Hayes on hand to answer any questions you may have about any type of local fishing, and can also repair your rods and reels if necessary. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please make sure and subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to get that free AFCO sun protection mask promo code, and also to be added to our email list. And we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. Be safe out there.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com.
And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. And also by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. And also brought to you by Fish Bites. Whether you are hitting the sand with a set rig using the traditional scent strips for pompano or fishing the flats or marshes for speckled trout, redfish, and flounder, Fish Bites has something for you. Fish Bites baits and lures are made with pride in the Sunshine State of the USA. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by Killer Dock. Killer Dock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. Killer Dock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metal Works are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metal Works, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing charts since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com.